Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the September 6th meeting of the Wiscasset Climate Action Team, WCAT, which I love. So I, again, am Cassie Rose. I am temporarily stepping in to run the meeting in lieu of our now former committee chair, Heather Jones, who unfortunately had to step back from her committee assignments due to health concerns. So we have an agenda that I'm going to pull up on our in-room screen in just a moment. Thanks for bearing with me as we get into this brave new world of running Zoom and in-room production at the same exact time.
You're doing better at it than I could.
Very exciting.
Oh, look at that.
Okay, so we have our meeting minutes here, and I'm gonna attempt to zoom that in so we can actually see it. Okay, so we are calling to order at 6:07 p.m. I would like to interject some other business and move up our other business temporarily due to the fact that we don't have a formal committee chair at the present time. And I believe that Jan had a motion to nominate.
Have Cassie become the chair.
Second. Any open the floor for discussion from any of our members in the room or on Zoom?
How many members do you have in the committee?
We have now 8 with the departure of Heather, and our former quorum was 5. I think our quorum would be get revised to. Well,
You might barely make it.
yeah.
50% will do.
Okay. I'm happy to take on this role. It's something I'm very used to organizing planning processes, so very happy to do it. Are there any other nominations or volunteers?
It's yours.
Acclamation.
We'll make it formal. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. I'll say aye. All opposed?
Susan, did you vote?
Susan, Sue, did you vote?
Oh.
I'm sorry.
We're voting in favor of me taking over as chair with the departure of Heather. Perfect.
There you go.
I am for.
Okay.
So you got 5.
We have 5, none opposed, none abstaining because everybody voted. Okay, thank you. I take this role very seriously, and I will do my best to keep us on time and on track. And we need it as a collegial function group. So thank you very much for your trust in this commission. Okay, with that, we can continue with our agenda. And we have past meeting minutes to approve. That being said, I'm going to turn it over to our secretary, Jan, to talk about perhaps some logistical matters.
Right, exactly. So can we put up the notes for the August 21? Is it possible to do?
Yes,
Or not?
absolutely. I can't quite see this. There we go. I believe I have a document right here. So it's pretty high level notes from our last meeting on August 21st.
One of the issues that has come up, all right, and it's just such a technical thing, we don't need to spend a lot of time on, but the July meeting, we voted that Marty had his own little group, okay, it was him. That was, and so it wasn't part of the low hanging fruit or whatever it was. And so I had conversations with Heather, and Heather didn't see it that way. So my notes that it should be in here. Heather, can you just roll up a little bit? Yes, the task work group, name to be determined. I wanted to make them a bit more professional and say something around project groups or something like that instead of low hanging fruit. So, I'd like to be able to do that.
Perhaps like maybe emerging opportunities,
Hey, yeah, we'll do that, okay,
so we can
Well, we
respond.
should have energy in there.
That will cover everything, anything climate related, I would think.
Yeah, so that
Just if it's an emerging, short-term opportunity that we need to respond to or work on.
right, okay, so then, is this the agenda?
This is the minutes that were in the
Okay.
Google Drive
Okay, so
from
it's
last
not.
meeting.
Um,
It includes the agenda items.
okay, it is different than what I did a little bit.
Okay.
I think I think this is fine, I think we should just accept this one. We have everything that's in there.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so someone needs to,
Is this online?
It
will be.
will be posted to the website.
Well, I mean, y'all are ad hoc, so you're not exactly on the committee, on town
We just got on
website.
it.
yeah, we
You
just
just
got on,
got on?
We just got on
Okay,
last
awesome.
week.
and I'm
Yes.
working with Robin to get the minutes out on.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Well done.
Mhm.
You're ahead of the appearance of the town committee, okay?
Okay,
I think we're good, if anyone has any objections.
Can I ask what Marty's special group is?
Anything other than, well, actually, there's two subgroups.
we have 3 work groups.
Yeah, we're calling them 3 now.
We have 2 members of our very first group here to give an update.
Right.
So our,
This group I know about.
yeah, they are talking about the, I would say this.
Green energy. Yeah.
Yeah, and potential alternative energy uses there. We have a working group that's working on applying for the Community Resilience Partnership in the governor's office.
Oh, yeah.
Which I co-chair, co-chair, I chair that group. And we have what we're now calling the Emerging Priorities Working Group. And there are a few examples of, there's a proposal to the town by JCI for an energy efficiency audit.
Right.
As well as there's a composting program, so we're looking into the Pleasant Street extension. So I think projects that members have specific ideas about or near-term opportunities that they want.
So will y'all have a recommendation for the select board on that particular emerging opportunity, the Johnson?
That is what we're working on.
Yeah,
Yes. We actually have a timeline right here that we're gonna review we're gonna send some members to attend their presentation to the budget
Awesome.
committee. And then we'll discuss and write up some findings.
You're on it.
Present them.
that's great.
We have time, the whole timeline, we won't.
I'm impressed.
It's later in the month.
No, rep-
September
I'm on both
27th.
committees.
we're spending time on it in 2 different places, right?
Yeah. Marty over here and Marty.
That works.
Great, okay, so I'm hearing general comfort with the minutes that I shared by email from August 21st. We also had minutes from August 7th. Yes. Which these look more detailed. Are there any objections, or are we also comfortable with these minutes?
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second, from both dates?
Yeah.
Okay, seconded?
Yeah.
All in favor? Aye, none opposed. Minutes are accepted. Fantastic. Okay. Wonderful, folks, we're making good progress. All right, so moving along, right along. We have been discussing the charter of WCAT for a few meetings now, And, there was a request at our last meeting, to review the charter on the big screen together and identify some high-level changes, if any, that we still wish to make to this charter. So I'm gonna pull that up right now. Here, and as a friendly reminder, our charter did have a goal statement, and I'm gonna ask
Okay,
where
so
that went.
I already asked for it, so I have to tell you, I had to edit this whole thing, and I must have pushed the wrong button, and I lost the top paragraph. Shree knows about it, she's gonna send it to me. Okay, so that will be there, all right?
Okay.
That's why I had to put draft the charter.
Okay,
Okay,
fantastic, all right, thank you.
Yep.
This also lays out, it was a very simple goal statement about, our role in advising the town of Wiscasset on climate action that reduces greenhouse gas emissions and helps us adapt to the impacts of climate change. Very general. Our responsibilities are to serve as a primary advisory committee, serve as primary contact to the Community Resilience Partnership in the governor's office, maintain our town's eligibility to receive community action grants from that same program in the governor's office, and then to complete a community action list every 2 years. To, again, these items are more oriented to maintaining our enrollment in the Community Resilience Partnership. We have some.
Can y'all read these from there?
Yeah. Okay, please feel free, we're happy to zoom in. We have some notes here about our membership, our voting members, non-voting members, roles. I would say that we need to, we may want to identify it here or within a 10-day document, who currently holds these roles. So I will, with everybody's permission, just take a few notes right in the Google document. We'll also have this in our meeting minutes, but this will help us keep track in real time.
Okay, this is in Google Docs.
This is in Google.
Yay.
So we'll add in the names of community groups. Conditions. Okay, then we have responsibilities. There's of the committee liaison. And I believe that this liaison was Heather Jones. And with the creation of our working group and myself serving as chair of that working group, I think it would make sense for me to take on that role. Is there agreement? Fantastic, I'm very happy to do that.
Thanks.
And then essentially we've laid out the responsibilities for all of these roles of, and this is hopefully something everybody's glanced through these times. Couple other parts of our charter, I believe, are how we will work together, as well as our statements of how we're equitable and inclusive in our work. This actually stems back to the Community Resilience Partnership and some of its requirements for climate groups or town climate work, and how towns go about being inclusive and equitable in that work. And so we've laid that out explicitly in our charter so that we have some guiding principles on ethics and equity. So these are very, I think, pretty straightforward and help us work with each other and with the public. We have details on our decision-making process.
This is a typo on the committee requires a quorum of 5 members. That one, there's a red line underneath it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Are,
in attendance.
but we decided to do the majority of the quorum. Okay, so with our committee being reduced to 8, I think I'm sensing comfort with continuing with 5 as the number for the quorum and the majority. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, Sue, are you happy with 5 remaining the quorum, voting quorum?
You're
Are you-
asking me.
Yes, Sue, are you happy with 5 members remaining with our voting quorum and the majority?
With, I understand, 3 to pass. Okay, a minimum of 5 people to make a quorum for a meeting and to
Yes.
pass a resolution, you must have,
5.
5, you must have 3 to pass.
So I think we're saying that we are requiring a majority, yeah.
The
it's
majority.
A majority of the members in attendance.
Correct.
That's why she's saying 3 pass.
3, perfect, yes.
I would have forgotten that. Mm.
Okay, and so our reporting, the frequency and content to the board is at the discretion of the select board. This is a little bit unclear to me, actually, reporting.
When you have something to report.
Yeah. we
Yeah,
have something.
It's
usually
not-
select.
Yeah, there's no quarterly
We
report
we just don't
required
wait
here.
till the select board, if we have a report to give.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think saying to the select board is at the discretion of the select board. Okay. So standard procedures will meet as frequently as needed, and we've determined that meeting frequency to be every 2 weeks until the end of, or until we apply for the community resilience partnership in December.
It's every 2 weeks or like first and third?
First, I think first, third Mondays. Unless
Wednesdays or Mondays?
Mondays. We had a
Oh,
holiday.
that's right, of
We had a
course.
holiday this week.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and then just more information about what we need to do to maintain eligibility in the community resilience partnership. We have our list of members here.
I'm not on it.
Yes,
I might not have that.
we certainly do,
Could I have a copy of that?
certain. I'll fill this in. Thanks. Okay. Great. So, yes,
So I wondered if there's a way that this subcommittee can be included for notification purposes. Currently, we don't get any information.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we make a note, just to maybe have a mailing list for our meeting notifications and materials.
And to, what's the list?
All the members of our subcommittees, we have some, non-subcommittee members, but members of the community,
Yes, if you have to
non-voting
give me your
members.
Okay, perfect.
Absolutely. So would you, follow up with me, we'll get your emails, make sure you have email addresses.
And is Heather gonna be unclear at all, or she's just dropping out?
Heather is resigning fully, so we will, remove her information very regretfully. Okay. Wonderful.
I think it's still there.
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
But she's gonna go
as a
in and
follow-up,
edit it.
Oh, I
I'll
see.
go ahead and edit it as a follow-up if that's acceptable to everybody.
It is.
Okay, wonderful. I think I'm feeling comfortable with where this is at. I have asked our service provider, Shri, for any additional input. So with your permission, I'd like to just wait on absolutely finalizing and posting this until we hear back from Sri, but I think once we do, we are very close to being able to finalize this and post it to the website. Okay, yeah, fantastic. Thanks, everybody. Okay. Cruising through our agenda. I love it. Okay. So next we have some updates from our different working groups. And given that we have some pretty substantial ones, with the permission of the group, I'd actually like to invite our folks who joined us today, Peter, to give us a quick update on the very first working group that we formed, looking into alternative energy uses or energy generation for the main Yankee Center. So, yeah, we're doing well on our agenda, so I think we could even budget like 10 minutes.
May I approach the table?
Please do.
Otherwise, Al can do. The owl is everything.
So the subgroup's task, as we've understood it, is to invite Ms. Cassett to utilize its legacy electrical components, the substations that we have and the transmission lines that we have that currently aren't being utilized, and invite clean energy generators to town, so to speak. So there's three parts to that, as we see it. One is for Wiscasset to say, yeah, we want to do this. We want to be a clean energy town. I don't know of any other towns in Maine that are clean energy towns, but I think that we could be and we should be. The second, the easiest generator that we could invite to town would be the connector from the offshore wind array. I don't know whether you're all familiar with it, but the next piece that's going to happen with it is a research array about 12 miles out, and it's going to be a full-scale deployment of what the University of Maine is going to build, right? The floating wind turbines, and it's
Just off of Mohegan.
no, that is being canceled.
That's a different one.
Yep, it's a different one, and it probably isn't going to be in the mix. It's not gonna, probably not gonna appear. That's a third scale model. This is a full scale, it's full scale.
Cool.
And it will be in place out there. And what hasn't been determined yet is where the extension cord is gonna come in. Right, there are it's looking at two communities, one is Yarmouth, one is Wiscasset. And we may actually get into competition for who wants to accept that connection.
So, Brian, it's Brian, right?
I'm sorry.
Peter.
I should have worn my name badge.
I'm like, so what I'm interested in is what actually, first of all, why did they cancel Mohegan? And I have heard some significant issues with some of the wind turbine that they're placing, thinking about placing out in the local water. Wales would be a big one. The drilling that's gonna have to take place to get those things in place, long-term implications of what that might be. My concern is, I think wind sounds great, but I think there's a lot of things we don't know about it. So I'm interested in what happened with Mohegan, why did that get canceled? What are they doing to sort of address some of the things that are, I think, still outstanding with regard to public information about pluses and minuses of a wind farm?
I don't have that information
I
at
could
my,
probably share some of that from my
Okay.
time in the governor's office. So this is the state of Maine has received funding from the federal government and approval to do a research test wind array to answer exactly these questions, how essentially what the spacing would be, what the impacts would be on other marine users, impacts on wildlife. This is a study, a research array at full scale. The Mohegan turbine was a proposed single test turbine at a smaller scale with the University of Maine. So it's a totally separate project. And I know that they had some public engagement challenges there. But this is a state of Maine test, and the state of Maine has soft pedaled further development in the Gulf of Maine in order to give some time for this research to answer a lot of these questions and to do that public engagement.
So would that be something that if, it sounds like it's a test,
It's a
It's a
test,
site.
it's a research.
So how,
Research.
so is that research in perpetuity? Is there a finite
It's a limit,
timeline?
I believe it's a limited time, I want to say it's on the order of a decade, I don't know specifically, they have a lot, they have an entire website dedicated to this project. However, they do need that transmission interconnection to plug it into the grid to also figure that out. The Gulf of Maine is too deep to do a traditional wind turbine, so this will be more limited drilling into the ocean floor to secure the floating cables to secure these turbines.
I think there was also another company interested in doing it further out that doesn't use the phone.
Yeah, there has been a lot
The
of
legislature
interest.
and the governor has approved moving phone.
Yeah, and part of the state of Maine's idea behind this research array is they want to make sure that we can get it right here before the federal government opens up the leases in federal waters in the Gulf of Maine, which we don't have control over as a state. So they're working really closely, hopefully, so we can have a say in what the development is.
And
Great, I
looking
appreciate
at
that.
developing it, I believe it's like 45 miles out, so that's not almost back to awesome.
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of information, I'm happy to find the link and share.
No, that was, you answered the question well, so I'm sorry, so.
So, no, I think the research part of it is the big takeaway from here. You know, to figure out to answer as many questions as we possibly can before the larger proposal gets funded and built, you know, so we know. So that the connection from the research array needs to come ashore someplace. And it'd be really interesting, I think, for the community to enter into the discussion that we just began. You know, do we want to support this? And my position would be yes, that it would be interesting to support this part of the research, bring the cable in here. There's a lot of benefits, a community benefit arrangement that was made with the developer, so that money and opportunities and services come with that. Right? It's not just free, you don't just say, plug us in,
Right.
right? We ask for benefits from
So
it.
I'm assuming there would probably be a workforce that would be attached to that, correct? To maintain it within the town of Wisconsin, to be able to, right?
I'm sorry, say it again?
There would be a workforce potentially attached to that could impact positively,
People,
yeah, Wisconsin,
not much.
not much, okay,
No, it's like sticking an extension cord in the wall.
okay,
Pretty much, it's construction jobs.
Okay.
But it opens up the opportunity for other businesses related to clean energy. For example, battery storage, right? We need to do grid-sized battery storage somewhere, and we have the infrastructure here to support that, right? So we could build off it, in a sense. So it would be really, it's part of, I hope Wiscasset can say, we want to be a clean energy town. And then the second part, Cassie, has to do with, and you jump in here, Ms. Terry, if you will, when needed. When Maine Yankee was disbanded in 2003, Wiscasset bought from Maine Yankee land. It's down across Old Ferry Road. So the town owns what was then described as a technology park. Right? Wiscasset bought land, said, we're gonna build a technology park. And it's basically just sat there ever since. And it's right across the street from a 1,000 megawatt substation that could absorb generation from new generators or new clean energy businesses. So I would like to have the town, the planners, look at the pros and cons of reigniting that technology park idea. So it would be a clean energy technology park. We have the facility, the town owns the facility or the land. The substation and all the transmission that connects us to the New England grid is right here. We have it all. And I think that we should investigate housing clean energy generation. So we can start shutting off the gas generators that we're currently getting 40% of our electricity from. So that's the other, so it's those three things. The town saying, yes, I want to, inviting, saying we're in favor of this research part, let's bring the connection in here. And let's investigate developing a park, a clean energy technology park here in Wisconsin. And inviting generators and businesses to come here. Currently, nobody's coming because we're not inviting anyone.
The concept of a clean energy town, where did that come from? For clean energy.
I don't know that I heard it from anybody besides me. at one
Peter's
point.
fertile brain is the
I
answer to that question.
I've worked at Schwanken for 20 years, as sustainability coordinator. Put up renewable energy stuff all over the place in many ways. And then, you know, happened to drive by that substation. And realized we have all the potential here. Why can't we be a clean energy town? Know the sign out here? Says prettiest village in Maine. I wanted to say prettiest clean energy village in Maine.
That'd be awesome.
Good, yeah. Okay, that's my point, that's
Yeah,
those are
and
my thoughts.
that's really, yeah, thank you very much for bringing.
How they
this
fit into the larger
Yeah.
idea of what we're trying to do here, I don't know.
Cassie, so this might be a segue, maybe it works and maybe it doesn't, but I looked at the agenda that we're talking about tonight and talking specifically about the, community forums that are coming up. And some of the ideas that you guys listed, that we had 6 or 7 things to discuss with the community, which in my mind are way too general. I think people are not going to get their heads around it. If you were to go into a community forum meeting like that and you had a presentation, like basically you just gave, which is very tangible. There is a piece of property, there is a main Yankee plant, there is an idea, there is a research project that's actually going to happen. All of those things are fairly linear. And I think it's easier for people to actually make that leap, to be able to understand when you say that Wisconsin could become a clean energy community, all of a sudden that starts to take shape. And I think we have a much better ability to sell that back to the community if they can see it themselves, as opposed to sort of general abstract ideas of what it could or couldn't be. So I like that a lot as potentially a forum in and of itself for the community forums, because I think that it gives people a really clear idea of what the pieces and parts might be, and the fact that we actually have ownership of those parts currently and we're not utilizing them is sort of exciting. So that's just.
There is a pretty large educational lift to do for the community.
Yeah.
And that would be a forum where we could start doing that.
There is a huge educational lift, and my concern right now is that there's so many things and they're so general, and I just don't think that people have the ability to get their heads around it unless we can really clearly connect the dots, which you just did, I thought, exceedingly well. So.
If he had pictures to go with it, that'd be even more powerful.
My general feelings, and I'm very biased by coming at this from this sort of state planning or a planning perspective, is it's really hard. I think we're struggling a little bit with, we have a lot of great opportunities and ideas, but we don't have a framework to fit them in yet. We don't have a plan, we don't have a Wisconsin climate action plan as one example. We have a state climate action plan, and we could follow that, the lead of that state plan, which it identifies what the largest statewide sources of greenhouse gas emissions are, some of the biggest climate change impact challenges, and in Wisconsin, flooding, sea level rise, rainfall are big ones. I think as we've had several meetings, I felt myself wanting to have that wider framework and that wider idea of what are we prioritizing, that those broad ideas. I completely understand what you're saying about, it's really hard to get people to wrap their heads around the broad areas. I think for these initial public meetings, which we'll definitely dive into in a few minutes, I wanna be careful not to get into too many specifics because we're gonna get lost in the trees and not see the forest. And as a committee, having that roadmap of a broader sense of what are the broader climate priorities, you know, do we wanna develop our own town urban action plan? That way, when we have opportunities, we have this plan to guide us forward. The state of Maine having a climate action plan, that was developed before the federal government passed some big federal funding opportunities. And because the state has that plan, we can say, here are our priorities, plug and play the funding that's coming towards us. It would be, so I think Wiscasset having a plan, a broader plan, would allow us to get a sense for what how these different opportunities fit in. And that's sort of where we're at right now, is wrestling with how do we develop our vision as we're trying to take advantage of these individual opportunities.
Totally,
Stephanie?
yeah, no, I mean, it's, you're essentially creating a brand new platform, and I get that, and you have to have that. The concern that I have is that the timeline is pretty short, between now and the first public meeting. And to develop,
This is totally separate.
no, I know, but to develop the plan that you're talking about, which I think needs to be done, if we're going to have a public meeting that's supposedly happening in one. I think that they're a little bit at odds, and I think that to create that platform is gonna take more time potentially than a month. So I'm just wondering, A, do we move that back, or do we take, you know, the other term we used last time, low hanging fruit, and use that in order to start the process rolling, the ball rolling, and getting grants written and getting funding going for some of these things that are right there. That's my question to you.
Not just up to me,
Yeah.
but thoughts?
But we don't have any choice, we have a short time frame to get this done, so that should be our priority. After we're done with that, and then the grant is $50,000, then we could move on to the broader vision.
So we have two
We
goals.
can't take on everything at once.
No, so we have two goals we're moving towards. We're applying for the partnership, which is just membership. And we have to hold our public meetings and fill out the community action priorities list. And the survey, which we've taken a crack at. And then we also have the grant opportunity. And we can put that grant towards a number of different things, but I think the prioritization process will help us. I don't want to lose sight of that, having that broader roadmap, because it might be harder later to fund that.
I think it has to happen in tandem. I absolutely think we have to have it. But in my experience, what you're talking about takes a lot longer than what we have if we're gonna hold to the schedule of the first public meeting.
Right, so
So that's,
we're not, so what we, with the public meetings, we're just trying to get a sense of public priorities, what are people value. So maybe we could wrap up your presentation real quick, and then we'll get into the public meetings with the community.
When is the public meeting scheduled?
We'll share that in just a few minutes.
So
just to-
sorry.
Yeah, no,
And just as a wrap up, there's a sister committee that I think, I'm not sure how to get it incorporated, but the comprehensive plan is now being written. And I would love the comprehensive plan to say, Wiscasset can be a clean energy village, right? We have the last comprehensive plan referenced the material, right, the sale of that property and the technology park and a bunch of, I guess, programs that are now dead to try to do something. And they didn't make it. I have no idea. I'm fascinated by history. I think it's pre-computer almost, right? I tried to get the planners to pull it up for me. They can't do it. So, I'm a little lost. Was the plan failed? but I would like the comprehensive plan to reference the same set of ideas. Wiscasset can be a clean energy village. Thank you.
But if you go to the
Thanks very much.
comprehensive plan meeting, I think it's on the website, the town website.
I want one of those other members to take that. I could do it, I don't want another. committee.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Interestingly, some other towns are starting to develop climate chapters of their comprehensive plan, so that's something
Well, that would be a good way for
we
you.
could think about, instead of having a separate climate plan, could be part of the comprehensive plan. So
Right, so they could
that's
be
something to
Piggyback
consider.
or combine.
Yeah,
Great,
they should.
good, that makes, yes, they should.
Honestly, it make our
Yes. Yeah, well.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll send you a synopsis. but I'll just- Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
Sarah Whitfield is the chairperson of the comprehensive plan committee.
You're on the comprehensive plan committee too.
Oh, you are?
Okay, well, moving on.
Moving on,
Sorry.
not worrying.
I just wanted to add
This
one
is
thing,
helpful.
so I'm not like an energy guru or anything, but as I was listening to Peter, my skill set is organizing and getting it out there. It seems like we have a really great opportunity to tie into what, and you guys can, you know, want that, it just seems like Maine Yankee had a great past, and now we should be showing how Maine Yankee land and part of the facility can really move us into being the first clean air, clean energy town in Maine. And I really think we have like a great opportunity for PR right there. Because people look at that facility as kind of the glory days of Wiscasset. So can we reuse what's already been there? And that's what people are saying. I don't know. So that's maybe putting the cart before the horse, but that's our PR, I think.
I think it is a little bit the credit for the horse.
It is, but you have to think
Yes.
about the cart before the horse if you wanna get it sold, right? And that's what isn't that what we're talking, isn't that what you were saying in a way?
Yeah, but,
I'm gonna put a
yeah,
little pin in this. We do have time for public comment.
Okay,
At the end.
cool.
So I just wanna make sure we get through, we have a
Oh,
lot
okay.
to talk about. But thank you for sharing your thoughts, really, I think that's such a great, analogy. Okay, fantastic. So Marty and anybody else who wants to talk, I'm gonna go a little out of order and say our, what do we call this? Emerging Opportunities Working Group. Can we get a brief update on any work or updates that you've worked on
Sure.
since the last meeting?
Jury is, holding a meeting tomorrow that I'll be attending, and it's for people who are interested in the broader subject of energy. And, she has a consultant that we're gonna be talking with, and he's gonna advise us what other options we can do. And then we are meeting, I believe it's the 27th or 28th, with, Johnson Control.
28th, I think.
What'd you say, Sue?
I believe it's the 28th.
Okay, thanks, Sue.
Oh, is it the 28th? I thought it was the 27th. Okay, we should do that. Great, so we've got the, yeah, I'm gonna try to make the informative meeting tomorrow that she organized. I believe she had a colleague of hers or a coworker who has worked with towns on energy efficiency assessments and projects and can kind of maybe give us the broader perspective that we could put that JCI proposal into. So I'd love a,
Well, basically, he's given us an alternative to JCI. You know, why, my problem is why should the town spend $2.2 million on things that might not be a priority? We should address the priority, where's the biggest bang for your buck? Probably go to half the price. Or we have to look into it.
Mm-hmm.
yes, I look forward to hearing more. My understanding was that he wasn't proposing an alternative, but he was going to give a lot more information about the broader perspective. Yeah, we'll find out. We'd love to hear your report back, on what he says. Any other, members of that work group who want to chime in with any updates?
Leslie, I haven't talked with her. Not her. Okay, so she has had a conversation with this a water, a state wildlife, water, whatever, about plantings for, the proposed, the project on
Pleasant Street.
Yeah, Pleasant Street. And I know we're supposed to be doing a walkthrough with her in early October.
Right, I think I have the date, so it's a woman from Knox County
That's it.
that has an incredible amount of, knowledge about, how to handle marshes and what needs to happen, and, she's incredibly, she's a fantastic contact.
That sounded like she had a lot of projects up her sleeve.
Absolutely.
She's done this before, and Shri actually chimed in and said that that type of planting actually absorbs more carbon than regular forest would. So I think it's a really beneficial conversation. I know that's moving forward, and I think there's a walkthrough
In
in
October,
October.
yeah, I have it somewhere.
So I think we're waiting to see what that yields, and then hopefully we can put some form to that in the way of a grant proposal.
And she has access to different grants and is direct, and she thinks we really should do some fundraising with different, foundations, so,
Yeah, great. And then I think the second thing was the scrap dogs, which I have not had a chance to speak with Leslie directly about that, but I have had a conversation with several smaller restaurants in town. And what I'm not clear on with Leslie is why Scrap Dogs wants to only start working with commercial businesses and not go to residential first, where you have the larger catch. Not for people participating. The concern on the part of the smaller restaurants is the cost of that on a weekly basis is tough for them to absorb. So at least the two that I spoke to, they just don't feel like right now they're able to participate in that. But I think the larger conversation needs to be, what do you need to do to get a residential program? Because that seems like you could get more people into that bucket more quickly than your commercial. So.
Look forward to hearing more as you.
So the next one is, Cassandra, you're in charge of, you run the big, community resilience, group where people come and talk and so forth.
Yeah.
And I'm really concerned about the date, to be honest with you. I will go through a couple of things that I know is going on. I organized, a date of September 27th, the first couple of workshops, and at the community center, and that is a Thursday.
So, I'm sorry, did you say the 27th or the 28th? Because I had the 27th.
I have the 27th, I hope I said the 27th, but I might not have. But it is the 27th, yes.
And we had proposed 6 p.m.
Correct, and then we wanted to do another one in October.
Yes.
And I have to go back to Dwayne, but I think I'm hearing that October 14th works the best for people. That works for you,
It does work.
yeah. So I can go back to Dwayne and confirm it, but I'm honestly, we have so much work to do before September 27th. We're in basically, next week, we only have 2 weeks to do it.
So why don't you let me give a quick update? We can.
Oh, so you know more, okay,
Yes,
good,
and-
all right, great.
Yeah, so yes. Let me give a quick update and we'll work through all the elements.
Okay.
And see how we're feeling about it. Okay, so apologies, I just need to pull up Okay, so Community Resilience Partnership Work Group updates. We are attempting to finalize our public meeting dates. Right now, September 27th at 6 p.m. is available, and that was in the large, is that the auditorium?
It's in the community center.
In the
In the-
gymnasium?
No, well, I was unclear, Dwayne, I said it back to Dwayne because I have to ask you guys.
Okay, I think I recall seeing October 14th, just the senior center room was available, which is a smaller room, but would still fit a large number of people. So I would be comfortable either with that room or the larger gymnasium.
Okay, so it doesn't matter what,
I would say maybe the senior center room, because I assume that we could set up screens and projectors there more easily.
so for both of them.
Yeah.
Okay,
So action item, I wanted to, we do, last I heard, there is a conflict between the September 27th meeting and the JCI presentation to the budget committee, which we plan on sending a couple of members to. So what is the comfort level with not everybody from our WCAT being able to attend the first public meeting? Which we may not everybody may be able to attend in the first place. We will be able to record
Sue said it was the 28th.
it. It's the 27th. The email that I saw is the 27th at 5:30.
But Johnson Control.
Yeah.
Is the 27th.
So is is there comfort, is there discomfort with not everybody being able to make that if we deliberately send a couple of members to the JCI budget committee?
I'm not comfortable only because I still am not clear about what we're gonna do. I can't tell you whether I'm comfortable or not until I understand. I'm more
Sure.
Janice, I feel like.
So we'll back up
Yeah,
to the format,
yeah,
okay. So what we've talked about for the format is planning on 90, both meetings will have identical formats. We'll have 90 minutes total. And so we'll have about a 10-minute introduction, talking about the committee, what our goal is, why everybody's there, what we're asking them about. We'll have 70 minutes for facilitated discussion and taking comments and questions from all of the members of the public. I'm happy to facilitate that. I've done this before, many times with public discussions about climate plans, so I'm gonna make myself the person who has to stand up in front of all the people. And then we'll do 10 minutes to wrap up. This will be a hybrid meeting. I talked with Shri yesterday. She has projectors and screens, the ability to set up a Zoom and record it for us. So we can also have hybrid participation from the public as well. My general thinking on this was that we basically set up a handful of slides to introduce people to the committee, the Community Resilience Partnership, why we're trying to join, and some of the questions that we're asking them. What we'll need to discuss is the topics we want to discuss in those two meetings. I'll touch on that in just a moment. But the general thinking, what I've seen work well in the past is posing questions to a broad audience. You have to be somewhat general, but we can focus on, say we wanted to focus on asking people, what do you care about in terms of reducing emissions in like our transportation or our buildings or energy? Do you care about energy efficiency? Do you not care about this at all? We could focus on that, get people to stand up and share ideas, ask questions, and in a facilitated discussion, we would have a flip chart or maybe a screen where we take notes and start to collect what those comments are, what that feedback is. And as you work through the facilitated discussion, the facilitator will start to circle common themes that we're hearing. So ideally, by the end of this discussion, we're gonna start to identify what the common feelings, priorities, and feedback are. And because it's facilitated, we can also check with the people who are there to say, I'm hearing you all really care about reducing the amount of energy we use in our municipal buildings. Is that right? And I'll ask questions, people will talk, and by the end of the meeting, we hopefully will have that sort of short list of these are the priorities that we're hearing. People really care the most about. That's sort of how I've had facilitated discussions in the past. I think it can work better than just having people stand up in a public comment format, because you can get people on a roll of unhappiness or complaining, and we want this to be productive. So I think having the facilitated, like, guided format can help us get the information we're trying to get.
Yeah, so I'm in all favor of this whole facilitating, but I think we need to be really mindful of what questions are we gonna ask. They have to be really succinct, they have to be something that they care for, but they also have to have the opportunity to say, I want this. So it's gotta be both ways here.
Yeah, certainly. I wanted to share like one other quick thing, and then we can chat a little bit more about that. So notes. So another action item is how do we want to split out topics? One thing we could do is really try to utilize the public survey that we want to run with our community, and use whatever questions we decide to use in that survey to also help guide our public meetings. That'll help when we're trying to collate and synthesize all this information later. That'll help it become more consistent. But there are a number of ways we could approach this. We could be, I did hear some feedback by email, I can't recall, I apologize to who emailed about it. Maybe wanting to, it may have been Leslie actually, wanting to ask people, you know, what sub-action and strategy B do you support? I think that's way too much detail. I think maybe ask the way, well, I had set up a few draft questions and circulated by email today. And the questions are pretty general in that they ask people to tell us, to prioritize what kinds of climate actions they think we should take. So they could tell us, and apologies, it's not set up in this format here, but they could say, for each of these actions, this is a low, medium, or high priority. We could also have people just check boxes to say, please check the top 2 priorities that are important to you. We could then follow that by some short answer or long answers where people could give more examples. They could, in writing, tell us a little bit more about what they like. We could also use this survey to collect examples of project progress that's Wisconsin's already made on climate action, because that's sort of the question or things that we had. And then a last question that I've seen the city of San Diego pose this when they did public engagement with their citizens about climate action was, what kind of climate future did they want? They kept it really simple, and they did work to synthesize all the answers they got on the back end to with technical experts. But there are different ways we could approach this, so I'm gonna stop.
Well, I think that's where I'm, first of all, I've facilitated a lot of public meetings with regard to neighborhood revitalization. So I know what you're talking about. I understand your process. I would step back and go to the last thing you just pointed out, as opposed to going into specifics. I think that, in my experience, I think the first thing you want to understand is, do people even understand, what is their understanding of climate? Like, you don't even know what that is in this community. We don't know. And we're gonna get a lot of different answers to that. So you can't, I don't think you can go right into transportation emissions before you've asked the question, what does climate awareness mean to you? What does climate resiliency mean to you as a community? I think we need to understand that first before we get into the specifics, because honestly, I think if you go there, a lot of people are gonna look at you like stares and go, I have no idea what you're talking about.
That's really fair.
And I'm not sure that if I don't understand that I'm gonna be behind it. So I think, my experience has been, it engenders inclusivity when you open it up and you ask people to explain what it is to them. What does it mean to them? It takes more than one meeting. It usually takes 3 or 4 public meetings. It's arduous. It takes a while to do. You have to collect the information. You've got to find the commonalities. I really think that, in my opinion, we need to weigh that up. And I think we need to go to that question first. What does the future for this CASC look like? And that needs to be the first meeting, frankly. And it's gonna be a hard meeting because you are gonna have a lot all over the place. But you dial it down, and I think we need to understand what those meetings look like, what we're trying to achieve at the end of that. But I think the first thing, in order to be inclusive and in order to really get people to participate, I think you have to open it up before you get specific. That's my feeling about it. So I have to agree, I'm where you are. I think we're being too premature. I think it would be great for us to figure it out for ourselves a little bit first. And then I think if we looked and put it out a month and started the first meeting in October and tried to have it finished by the end of the year, I think that might be a realistic goal. That's my opinion.
Lisa, when do we have to file?
So we don't have an exact date, but I'm going to guess that it will be in December.
In December?
Yes, so I would say we should aim to have our applications ready by December first. If we have more time, fantastic. If not, we're ready for that early.
I mean, Lisa, I think what you say is really good, because I'm really nervous about how many people are gonna show up, right?
Right.
Really and truly.
Like a lot or not any?
Not many, not many. I mean, truly, and how do we get people into this and so forth? And, I think with asking a really broad question, it's a really good way of starting, this workshop. And then you can get more specific as someone is saying, well, I think this, and this, and put it on the board, and then you can see, oh, 5 people are really talking about this, well, maybe we should have a little bit more discussion, whatever. So I think that the start with the general is really good. Some people won't talk, so we have to pull it out of them.
Well, and this is where, and you know this, Cassie, this is where I think things like SurveyMonkey are great.
Yeah.
But invite the community at large to come, see who shows up, let's ask the question, and then we can employ a SurveyMonkey type survey to those people and start to get some metrics. I think that's
So you do it, meeting, big question,
big question.
and then the information that we get from that, you would do a survey monkey.
Yeah, and hopefully, if you have the first meeting and you can get it out there in a comprehensive way to let people know that this happened, the newspaper, the meeting notes, whatever we're gonna do, you send that survey to whoever wants it. I mean, we can do a mass mailing. That doesn't have to just be the people that went to the first meeting, but at least you've got the groundwork laid to start to gather metrics.
Those are excellent points, and I do like that. That's not the right approach.
I think it's a combination of what two of us were talking about. I know we're going to the same place. I want to see it succeed, and I'm
Yeah, that's really valuable. Yeah, I can tell you the state process was way too detailed, so I love hearing better ideas.
so it's just another idea. It may not be better, but just another one to consider.
Fantastic. Sue, we haven't heard from you in a little bit. Do you have any thoughts you want to share?
Well, first of all, I wasn't aware until this afternoon that there would be a meeting tonight. So one of my questions that I written down was when and how was this information dispersed? And I'm not the only one. Somebody else had to hear from somebody else that there was a meeting tonight.
So our meeting, we did decide the date of this at our August 21st meeting. And it was on the, I know on the website. I'm just gonna double check.
It's not in the notes, I don't think I put it in the notes.
It's not in the notes, so, yeah, apologies for
Yeah,
that.
apologies.
There was an email that went out from you.
I did
Yeah.
email, and I thought, Sue, that you were on that email today. And apologies, we've just had some last minute, a little bit last minute messiness because of the departure of Heather. And having to take over at the last minute. So I do apologize for that. But yes, you did at least receive the materials this morning. And I realize that is too late, but we did have some mitigating circumstances.
Okay, thank you. And then again, when who's ever doing the chairing,
That's me.
calls the meeting to order and welcomes everybody. If at that point, the person who's chairing could please go around and identify all the people, not only on the team, but in the room.
Absolutely. We can absolutely do that. So yes, we can go around. I would say maybe not everybody in the room unless we have some speakers like we do today, but certainly everybody from our committee we can identify. And Sue, we have Terry Keller here from our select board today.
I see.
Is it okay if I ask a question? Yeah.
Please go for it.
Okay.
We're back to our discussion.
So help me out with dates, okay, because I have some reserved with Dwayne and I don't know if we want to use those dates or what. Do we use the September 27th date? Will it be, I'm nervous about being ready for it. I know you have to do it, but. I mean, we need a lot of things, as you saw.
We do. I personally am feeling comfortable with that because I think we don't need a lot of material prep, especially if we are staying very broad and giving broad feedback. I think we can talk about our charge as a committee, which we know, a little bit about the community resilience program. If we decide to include anything about the impacts of climate change, where greenhouse gas emissions come from, SHREEP has, and the governor's office have materials that we can use for that. So I think it's a matter of general comfort with this committee.
Okay, so maybe when this committee meets again, we can go back through this and who does what and so forth.
I would say perhaps our work group should meet sooner because.
Yeah, that's what I meant, sorry.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That group needs to get together.
Would it be helpful for you to see a working document for how one of these meetings might happen, what I used to do, just generally, just because there is a process, and I think you could do the 27th if you got the word out, you got hopefully the biggest group that you could get, and you were set up to be able to facilitate in an organized fashion, and you had 1 or 2, like 3 questions at most during the 90 minutes that you asked. Collect general information. You could probably pull that off on the 27th. And then it's gonna basically be hardcore working through that and kind of with the survey, but I'm happy to.
Yeah, that would be
do
helpful.
just to-
That would be helpful. So we do have to hold 2 meetings for our community resilience partnership application. So, 15 minutes, I wanna move us through this. Lisa, do you propose that we take a similar approach with both meetings of broad, simple questions, and then we take that input and we digest it into the framework of prioritizing, actions for the community resilience partnership application?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And I think, as I say, I think that. Yeah, I think the other thing that, well, one of the things that in answering the big question, we would break the community into, we would basically always meet the Chamber of Commerce. We would meet with the city manager and their mayor. We had sort of the executive level. We had, community representative, and then we had general community. And variations of the same questions were asked to each one of those groups to sort of get you to a baseline. You could do something like that here in 2 meetings. You could choose to meet with and interview your executive level, which means you take it back to your select board, take it to whoever you identify that as being. And then you pare that down and you put it back to your community group. But you're sort of getting and doing it that way, you get, I think, a better, well-rounded vision of what your community is thinking. And how they're identifying it for themselves. So you're sort of covering all your bases, I guess is how I'm saying. And then you take that information and you sort of edit it down. And at that point, a lot of times we would do a SurveyMonkey survey to larger communities, sort of to make sure that what we're finding in the initial findings adds up to what's happening in the community at large. Does that make sense?
I think that does starting to make sense. So are there any proposed changes to the schedule of the 2 meetings that you would?
No, I think it would be, you guys, you're in the work group, I'm not, but I think it would be really important to get who do you want at the first meeting, what, limit it to 3 questions, what 3 questions do you need to have answered in order then to move to level 2, which would then be more specific, based on what you get from that first meeting. I mean, if you come away from the first meeting and you've got slingshots happening all over the place with regard to what people think of as a climate-worthy community, then you know you have a lot more work to do. And we're gonna be way ahead of the game if we're talking about emission generation, that's gonna be way over everybody's head. So I think you have to sort of figure out what you're trying to get to and understand in that first meeting, those questions need to be very specific in what you're trying to get the community to come up with. How much do they understand? How much are they engaged? How much do they want to be engaged?
I think based on that, that's super valuable feedback, and I would love to actually grab you or get you to chat with you with the work group. Perhaps pushing, not holding this entire meeting, but trying to aim for early October would make the most sense, so we can iterate on our process a little bit. Terry.
Do y'all have a presentation from the county on climate change with regard to rising water? Have you had that presentation? Have you seen that?
Not as a committee. Yeah, I'm very familiar with the projections and the science behind that, but one thing we haven't, I think as a committee, we talked a tiny bit about, haven't discussed a lot, is what information for education, continuing education we want to do together.
Well, I can tell you, it's one of the things that the select board has attended, and we care about it very much. And in fact, it projects our thinking to wastewater treatment plant and moving it, how much that's going to cost. I will tell you very practical things that it means to us. And we would hope that y'all are addressing some of that in your concerns and getting the public informed about that. What, if there were a way in your first meeting on climate to say, here is a potential effect, this is what we're looking at in 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, whatever. 10 years even is an important thing to plan. Those are facts. Projections, okay, yeah, they are projections, but they're accepted science in this community anyway, and in the main climate community, that needs to be said. This is what we know. And now, what does that mean to you? In other words, you're gonna have to give them a context, because that's what we on the board are working with, is a context. Not just sort of, what do y'all think about climate resilience?
It's not
I'm
so
not sure
much
that
what
there
you
would
think, it's not what you think, Terry, it's what does it mean to you? As a member of your community, what does it mean to you?
Absolutely.
But you can't go anywhere else until you get people to explain that to you. How do you feel about that?
I'm all over that. I'm with you all the way. But they have to know what you mean by climate to begin with. Is that what I'm
Actually,
saying?
but what I'm saying is I'm more interested in when they hear climate, what do they know?
What do they know?
I wanna know what they know.
What they think.
I know what it means to me. That's why I'm on this committee. What I wanna know is, what does it mean to my community? When I say climate, what are the first few things you think about? That's the question I wanna know. To anybody on the street, what are the things that come into your mind when I say that? That's what's important to me. Because then when I know that, then I can go back and talk about some of the other things that are breathing down our neck more effectively.
I guess I'm just one tiny step further along the road on that. I want them to know this is coming. Now, what do you think about it? This is what's coming. What do you think about that? I'm with you on that. It has to mean something to them. Right, with you. But they have to know, what are you talking about?
I think we're basically saying
I think we're
the
saying
same
the same
thing.
thing.
I really do. I think we're
I just wanted to know if the committee had seen that presentation,
Yeah,
because it gives you the, feeling.
yeah, we can certainly touch base with them, if it's helpful, my previous work, the state came up with this scientific assessment of climate change in Maine. I'm a co-author on that report, so we can absolutely pull
Use,
lots of
use what
resources
you've
and
got.
information.
yeah,
There's some great, like, high-level info we could definitely use to present. So,
I need to go. I'm really sorry.
thank you for being here, it's really valuable.
I care very much about this.
Okay,
I didn't get to say that, but
thank you, Tara.
Heather is one of my dearest friends, and I care very much what happens to her. And she said, take care of my people, and I said, I'm there, so
Thank you for being here.
I'm so
Really
glad.
appreciate that. Okay, I can take a few notes.
Can you, and I'll
Yeah.
chat with you tomorrow or
and we'll touch
email?
base.
Okay, thanks, Kezia. I have to be somewhere at 7:30.
Yeah, not a worry. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I would say we can wrap up. We need a bit of time, but we should probably aim for maybe tentatively October 14th for our first meeting.
Yep,
Okay.
that sounds good.
And that's October 14th. October 14th.
When's our next meeting?
Okay, so turning to wrap up, I will pull up the calendar. Here. Apologies, I can't really see it from here. So I believe that our next meeting is Monday, September 18th at 6 p.m. And it's on the town website. So if anybody could send me agenda items by the previous Friday, actually Thursday, then I will collect those and get them put together and disseminated via the town website. We'll try to get that up before the action. Okay, so just coming back to our agenda really quickly. So really good progress and moving forward. We've had our public comment and our next meeting is right there. Any quick proposed agenda items for that next meeting before we wrap up?
And we should address, what we're gonna be doing for publicity.
Yes.
Okay, so, let's see. Sharing. Yes, and, I am chatting with Shri and working with her on a press release. We didn't have everybody here for a photo, but, I'll propose some photos that we could use. Perhaps a photo of our town dock or something. I've got a good one, the town dock flooded for a press release if you can finish it.
Marty, are you talking about in the team or community? Both.
For the public meeting.
Public, I think it would be great to get a really good strategy for how many places and where and how we're going to get that date out, what we're gonna call it. And there needs to be some, you would know, but I think there needs to be some statement drawn up for encouraging people to attend.
Certainly, no, we're working.
I also think we could, it's okay with the select board, there's an email list that Robin sends out the agenda for the meeting. And Mike can use that, these people who are interested in what's going on, we had a direct press release there also. Same thing, because everybody's not gonna be reading the press release, I miss a lot of stuff, and my wife will say, oh, did you read this? I said, no, did you read this? No. So, we skim over the newspaper, so you may not hit it, so more people we can get it. They also have the text, they text people signed up for it, it's on their website. I don't know how many people signed up for it.
I
But I
think
get,
there's some concern, there are some legal concerns over what people sign up for versus what you can use their information for. So we'll check.
yeah, the newspapers, won't do it.
Okay, thank you. Fantastic. All right, folks. 7:28. Meeting is adjourned. So see you on September 18th.
I put it on my